Chapter 51 3 Battles with Kakashi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Back on the training field, Che and Kakashi, two white-haired heartthrobs, were ready for their third showdown. Kakashi wasn't fazed by his earlier defeats, he locked his gaze on Che, his eyes blazing with intensity. Why the death stare? Che joked, snapping out of it. Kakashi retorted, you can't win if you don't take this seriously. Che flexed. Forget the odds. Just try not to end up in the hospital with Asuma. Ouch, harsh, Kakashi shot back. Che grinned. Begin, that they both snapped their hands into the seals. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Earth style, earth flow barrier, asterisk boom, star, the giant fireball slammed into the earth wall, sending up a fiery cloud of dust and debris. Kakashi seemed to anticipate Che's next move. Actually, he just pieced it together from his understanding of Che and the hand signs. Before the flames faded, two whoosh sounds cut through the air. Two shuriken arced through the fire and toward the back of the earth wall, asterisk clang. Clang, asterisk they were blocked. Almost instantly, the ground beneath Che cracked. He leaped back just as a pair of hands shot up from the earth. Kakashi emerged from the hole. Since shadow clones are created by evenly splitting your chakra, the six eyes couldn't tell them apart, but Che knew this had to be a clone. Kakashi wouldn't fall for the same trick twice. Che raised his hand and slammed a Rasengan into Kakashi, the clone vanishing in a puff of smoke. As Che retracted his jutsu, Kakashi burst out from behind the wall, weaving more hand signs as he charged. Lightning style, lightning beast tracking Fong. Kakashi unleashed two lightning wolves crackling with blue energy that attacked Che from both flanks. The wolves and Kakashi formed a three-pronged assault, enough to confuse anyone, but Che wasn't just anyone. He instantly created two shadow clones. They wove their own signs and unleashed wind style, wind slice, creating sharp blades of wind that destroyed the lightning wolves. At the same time, Che lunged at Kakashi. They traded blows in a furious flurry of fists and kicks before Che's clones moved in to assist. Kakashi quickly formed a seal, gathering chakra, and unleashing his still-developing signature move, forcing Che back. Then he created 6 more shadow clones, hoping to overwhelm them with numbers. Che's 2 clones each took on 2 Kakashi clones, leaving Che to face Kakashi and 2 more clones simultaneously. Chaos erupted. After the free-for-all, both sides produced a Rasengan. Che's 2 clones, each with a Rasengan, traded blows with 4 of Kakashi's clones. After Che's real body finished off Kakashi's other 2 clones, Kakashi spotted an opening and blasted him with the Rasengan. Che hit the ground, motionless. From the second floor, Hong was worried sick, on the verge of tears. Kakashi formed another seal, seemingly about to add insult to injury. Lightning style, earth run, that he unleashed blue electricity, sending it through the ground toward Che. Che suddenly sprung up, easily dodging the attack. Knew it, Kakashi said, unfazed. The Rasengan felt weird when it hit, like there was no real substance. Combined with Che's overly dramatic acting, Kakashi had figured out Che was faking. Che jumped back to avoid Jizo's attack. Everyone else thought Kakashi had simply missed, but Che had actually been pushed to his limit. Facing a stronger opponent, he was forced to reveal his trump card that he usually kept hidden. Che realized that if the fight went on any longer, he'd expose all his secrets. He decided to end things quickly. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu. At this time, Che created 10 shadow clones. No ordinary jonin could do that, or would want to. Splitting his chakra 10 ways meant each clone barely had enough to fight. The clones swarmed Kakashi, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. Now, Kakashi had to show his true skill, the white fang sword style his father had taught him. Kakashi drew his short sword and plunged into the mass of clones. They coordinated their attacks, surrounding him, but in the heat of the moment, Kakashi's skills soared. His sharp sword skills and keen instincts let him spot every opening, taking down the clones one by one. That white light flashed, reminding everyone of the legend of Konoha's white fang. Che was stunned. He didn't move until Kakashi had defeated the last clone. Shadow clones couldn't use the magic power or 6 eyes that the magic power created. Even so, each clone possessed almost half of Che's skill. Kakashi was exhausted after defeating so many. Che had been waiting for this. He erupted with chakra, instantly opening the 8 gates' inner gates, then charged at Kakashi, slamming him with a kick. the battle of geniuses ended abruptly. Kakashi braced himself before slamming into the wall of the battlefield, minimizing the impact. That's why he didn't wind up in the hospital. Shikaku stepped forward to announce the end of the match. Kakashi rested on the ground for a few moments before getting up and sheathing white light. He limped over to Che, glared at him, and said, "You're paying for my medical bills." Che chuckled, patting Kakashi on the shoulder. "Isn't Lin upstairs? Quit shaking me down and get checked out." He did need to be treated, but it wasn't necessary to wait upstairs. Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen walked downstairs and gathered everyone in front of him again. After a touching speech, he praised Kakashi and Che, then personally handed out Chuunin certificates and vests to the candidates. Che eyed the ugly green vest with hesitation before putting it on. Luckily, Che's looks were enough to pull it off. Che didn't really need a vest, it was still a symbol of his status, and with that, the Chuunin exams were officially over. Everyone dispersed. The Hokage left with the examiners. Shikaku grabbed the Suma certificate and vest and headed to the hospital. The remaining candidates broke into smaller groups and left as well. That was when Kurenai Yuhi suggested, "Let's have a party to celebrate our promotion." Her statement broke the heart of Obito, the only one who hadn't been promoted. He bolted without a word. Hong realized she'd messed up and felt terrible. Che patted her shoulder gently, telling her it was okay. After treating Kakashi's injury, Lin told Kurenai and Che, "I'm going to find Obito, so I won't be able to make it to the party. Have fun." Lin hurried after Obito. Team 7 was down Rin and Obito, and Team 8 was missing Asuma. With only 3 people, it didn't feel much like a celebration, so Kurenai called over Mitarashi Anko, who was there watching. Che suggested barbecue, and Anko suggested 3-colored dumplings. Kakashi said he didn't care, it was up to Hong to decide. Hong looked at Anko's pleading expression and sided with her best friend. "Let's eat dumplings." Che nodded, a little disappointed. Hong quickly reassured him. "Don't worry, they're sweet." Che's eyes lit up, and his love of food was back. Chapter 52 Orochimaru. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hongdo took them to her favorite dumpling shop. 3-colored dumplings with green tea were the house special. Everyone ordered, and when it was Che's turn, he asked for extra sugar. "Sorry," the clerk said. "We make the dumplings ahead of time, so we can't add sugar inside. But we can coat them with caramel." Che immediately chose the caramel 3-color dumplings. "Make sure you put a thick layer of caramel on them." Che's love for sweets and meat was a holdover from his past life. The 4 of them sat down and started chatting. Anko noticed that the other 3 had all passed the Chuunin exams. She curiously eyed Kurenai's certificate, then ruffled her purple hair in distress. "I'm the only one who failed. The teacher's gonna kill me." Hong looked sympathetic. "It'll be okay." Hongdo shook her head. "You don't understand. He's terrifying sometimes." Thankfully, the dumplings and green tea arrived, instantly distracting Anko. Che and Kakashi exchanged glances. They'd both heard of Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin, and his reputation wasn't exactly stellar. Cold-blooded, cruel, stern, and powerful, that was the word on the street about Orochimaru. People feared him, but that was just a side note. Che was ready to enjoy his dumplings, especially with that thick layer of caramel. The caramel exploded on his tongue. He swallowed greedily, then bit into a pink dumpling, chewing thoughtfully. The cherry blossom aroma mixed with the sweetness of the rice, intoxicating. Che was clearly more interested in eating than admiring cherry blossoms. Maybe that's why they say flowers aren't as good as dumplings. Next, he tried the white one, plain, with just the mellow taste of milk and glutinous rice. Simple and delicious. The third was green matcha. Che used this dumpling to mop up the remaining caramel on the plate. The slight bitterness of the matcha and the rich sweetness of the caramel created an incredible flavor. After finishing the 3 dumplings, Che picked up his teacup and gulped down the warm, fragrant green tea. Perfect, he mentally added this place to his favorites list, right up there with barbecue Q. Che had eaten 3 dumplings, and Anko had already downed 6. Hong laughed. She knew her friend, and that's why she brought her here. After eating 2 plates, Hongdo still wasn't satisfied. She raised her hand. "Hey, can I get 2 more plates of the 3-color dumplings?" Hongdo, you'll gain weight if you eat too many, a deep, hoarse voice said from the doorway. A powerful, chilling aura filled the air, making Che and the others feel like they'd walked into an icebox. A man with long black hair, golden snake-like eyes, and pale skin pulled back the curtain and ducked into the dumpling shop. He wore a Konoha Jounin vest, purple eyeshadow extended to his nose, and his face was handsome but unsettling. Orochimaru. Che thought to himself, realizing that Orochimaru was nothing like Jiraiya, another of the Sannin. Only Che and Hongdo seemed unaffected by the aura. Che was strong enough to handle it, and Hongdo was used to her teacher. Kakashi was sweating, feeling like he was being hunted by a predator stronger than himself. He was paralyzed with fear. You had to be at Kakashi's level to truly understand how terrifying Orochimaru was. Kurenai was simply frightened by Orochimaru's sinister aura and appearance, and she instinctively grabbed Che's hand under the table. Orochimaru scanned the group with his snake-like eyes. Enko, your classmates seem a little afraid of me. Enko, who had just said Orochimaru was scary, immediately jumped up. I didn't tell them you were scary. Honest. Right, right. My teacher's not scary at all, Enko said, turning to Kakashi and Kurenai. Kurenai slowly released Che's hand and mumbled a response, while Kakashi reluctantly let go, took a stiff sip of tea, and tried to relax. Lord Orochimaru, Che said, taking the lead. Kakashi and Kurenai echoed the greeting. Orochimaru ignored them, went to the counter, ordered a cup of green tea, and sat down at the table next to Enko. I heard about the Chuunin exams. Orochimaru swirled the tea in his cup, watching the steam rise. Enko sat up straight. We'll discuss your situation later. Orochimaru blew on his tea. Enko visibly relaxed. Orochimaru took a sip. Che, Sarutobi seems to think highly of you. Che said modestly, Lord Hokage is too kind. Orochimaru remained noncommittal, watching the ripples in his tea. I need an assistant. Someone with a solid theoretical foundation and a strong understanding of ninjutsu. A Chuunin-level ninja to help me with experiments and ninjutsu development every Sunday. It's a Class A mission, lasts for a year. Orochimaru finished his tea in one gulp. He stood up, went to the curtain, turned his back to Che. Che, if you're interested, go to the mission board. Then he left. Hongdo sighed in relief. Thank goodness he didn't yell at me. I can put this off a little longer. Che was seriously considering Orochimaru's motives. Kurenai and Kakashi asked at the same time, Che, what are you going to do? Che snapped back to reality. I haven't decided yet. They changed the subject, avoiding any mention of Orochimaru. Before leaving, Kakashi approached Che. I think you need to think long and hard about this. Che nodded, assuring Kakashi he would. They parted ways. Che walked Hongdo home and then headed back himself. On the way, he couldn't stop thinking about Orochimaru's offer. As one of the Sannin, Orochimaru had a lot of influence in the village and access to resources. If Che could prove his worth, Orochimaru would likely use those resources in exchange for his services. Becoming Orochimaru's assistant would definitely be beneficial. The only thing to consider was the risk. Orochimaru didn't exactly seem like a nice guy. If he found out some of Che's secrets, he might want to exploit them. Che weighed the pros and cons, finally making a decision. He turned around and headed towards the Konoha mission board. Yes, Che believed the advantages outweighed the disadvantages, so he decided to accept the task. Chapter 53 Assistant Task. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Che took over the job. The next day, Sunday, Che prepared to head to the research institute with the power of attorney, but first, he needed to find Enko Matarai, Orochimaru's former student. Of all the people Che knew, Enko probably knew Orochimaru best, so, Che wanted to learn as much as possible about Orochimaru before officially becoming his assistant. Knock, 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 star. Che rapped on Enko's door. After a moment, Enko sleepily opened it. Che was surprised. It was late, and ninjas weren't usually heavy sleepers. They typically developed light sleeping habits during missions. Enko blinked at Che, then snapped awake. Che. What's up? And just so you know, even though you're good-looking, I'm not doing anything to hurt Hong. Che stared at her, speechless. If you're not thinking straight, don't talk. Anko waved her hand dismissively, a smile on her face. Just kidding. Come on in and sit for a bit. Che stepped inside and cut to the chase. Orochimaru, what's he like? Anko gestured for Che to sit on the sofa. Che asked casually, you live here alone? Where are your folks? Anko suddenly went quiet, making Che wonder if he'd said something wrong. Then, she burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha, they're on a mission. Just me here. Gotcha. Che sighed, rubbing his forehead. Anko then turned serious and answered Che's question. I think he's amazing. Calm, strong, and brave. Okay, sometimes he's a little rough and scary, but overall, he's the best person I know besides me. And the person you respect the most besides your parents. Che nodded and kept asking questions. Anko knew practically everything. In her eyes, Orochimaru was the perfect ninja, everything you'd imagine, but the more Che listened, the more dangerous Orochimaru sounded, because nobody's perfect, not even someone like Minato Namikaze, who had a weakness for names. The fact that Orochimaru was so perfect in Anko's eyes didn't necessarily mean he really was perfect. It meant he likely had some serious brainwashing skills. Anko might have been a little brainwashed at this point. What she saw might not have been the truth, but what Orochimaru wanted her to see. Of course, Che didn't argue. Even though he trusted his intuition and judgment, Orochimaru was still a hero of Konoha. Che waited for Anko to finish sharing stories about her time with Orochimaru, forming a picture of him in her mind. Che was going to personally verify whether this picture matched the real Orochimaru. If there was a discrepancy, it meant Orochimaru was a master manipulator, and Che was walking into a tiger's den. However, Che was confident he wouldn't be manipulated. No matter what happened, he'd get out unscathed. That's why he'd ultimately decided to take the assistant job. After talking with Anko for a long time, Che left and headed toward Orochimaru's research institute. Hidden in a cave in the forest outside Konoha was one of Orochimaru's labs. Nobody knew how many research facilities Orochimaru had. Only Orochimaru himself knew the answer. Footsteps echoed in the cave. Orochimaru, who was in the middle of an experiment, smiled playfully and stopped what he was doing. Master Che, you made it. Uchiha Che walked in, wearing a Chuunin vest and carrying a ninja bag. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. There's no need for fighting as my assistant. Che smiled. Better safe than sorry. Orochimaru flicked out his long, snake-like tongue and licked his lips. Makes sense. So, what's my assignment for today? Che asked. Orochimaru motioned for Che to come closer and pulled out a glass jar filled with a murky liquid and something unidentifiable. A snake. Che glanced at Orochimaru. To be precise, it's what's left after you peel off the snake's skin and take out its organs. Orochimaru corrected Che and handed him the jar. Che-kun, why do you think snakes can crawl? Orochimaru asked. He seemed to be testing Che's knowledge. Che replied, the scales, muscles, and bones work together to create a wave-like motion. The force of the bending part acts on the ground, and it moves forward using reaction force. Back when he was hunting in his previous life, one of Che's favorite things was observing how animals moved. It helped him better understand his prey and catch more of it. I didn't expect you to know about that kind of stuff. It's not exactly in the ninja school textbooks. You truly are a genius ninja of Konoha. Orochimaru didn't hesitate to praise him. Many people mistakenly believe that snakes have soft bones, which allows them to bend and move forward. But it's actually the opposite. Snakes have extremely hard bones and a complete skeleton. That's how they do what you described. If snakes can do it, why can't people? Che understood what Orochimaru was getting at. So you want to transform people into snake-like structures? Exactly. I designed a ninjutsu based on the structure of snakes that allows people to break free from the structural limitations of the human body and become as flexible and tough as snakes. Che-kun, come with me. Orochimaru turned and walked deeper into the cave. Che put the jar back where he found it and followed Orochimaru. he pushed open an isolation door and was hit with the strong smell of formaldehyde. There was a processed corpse lying in the laboratory. Along the walls were several more corpses submerged in formaldehyde, which Orochimaru had dissected. Don't worry. The corpses here all came from Konoha Hospital with permission. Orochimaru explained calmly. Che nodded calmly. Orochimaru was surprised by Che's composure. You really are perfect to be my assistant. Che didn't respond. Instead, he asked, so, today's task is to help you dissect this, right? That's right. Orochimaru smiled. Okay. Che didn't object. Even though this job might affect his appetite, Che wasn't squeamish. People who had died under his unlimited spells in the past had met much grimmer fates than these experimental subjects. Does this technique have a name? Che asked. Orochimaru put on his white coat and replied, Software, Transformation Technique. Chapter 54 Summoned by the Hokage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two didn't talk much. Orochimaru simply pointed out all the instruments needed for the experiment and then started dissecting the body on the operating table. Human anatomy is extremely precise work. One slip-up could ruin the whole thing, so, even Orochimaru had to take it seriously. Che noticed that once Orochimaru got into an experiment, he became incredibly focused and absorbed. Che recognized that state because he got the same way during a fight. Bone scissors. Orochimaru held out his hand. Che immediately grabbed the right tool from the array and handed it over. Orochimaru had already peeled back the skin and flesh, and was now working on the bones. Bone modification was key to his software transformation. He started with the neck, modifying the 7 cervical vertebrae and adding numerous tiny joints to connect them. This would allow the neck bones to stretch far beyond their normal range. 2 hours later, Orochimaru had completed the initial transformation. Che spoke up. You can modify the bones, but what about the skin and flesh? Orochimaru set down his instrument. Good question. He walked to a medical refrigerator and pulled out a syringe filled with a green solution. This, he said, walking back, is the answer, a flesh plasticizing agent. Orochimaru went to the breeding room and grabbed a white mouse. He injected some of the solution into the mouse. After a brief struggle, the mouse seemed fine, nothing unusual. Che, using his 6 eyes, intently observed the mouse's body. The plasticizing agent contained some kind of chakra power, quickly integrating into the mouse's system. Orochimaru put the syringe away, held the mouse in one hand, and squeezed its head with the other. The mouse squeaked in fear. *snap*. Orochimaru broke the bones in the rat's neck, but the skin and flesh remained intact. He kept pulling, stretching the skin on the mouse's neck a good foot without it tearing. It was like pulling taffy. The modified mouse's skin was now incredibly tough, able to withstand the stretching and also providing much better defense. Orochimaru tossed the mouse aside. The flesh plasticizing agent, combined with my bone modification technique, is the complete software modification process. As expected, Lord Orochimaru, Che said. Orochimaru ignored the compliment and asked, Che-kun, do you think life is fragile? Of course, Che replied, even someone like him, with limitless jutsu, could still die if caught off guard. If you wanted to be less vulnerable, mastering the reanimation jutsu might be the only way. Exactly. Life is so fragile that I've been searching for ways to make it more resilient. Software transformation is one of them, Orochimaru confided. Che now understood Orochimaru's true motivation for developing this secret technique. Che-kun, are you willing to help me? I need your assistance, Orochimaru asked, turning around. It seemed Orochimaru was confiding in Che, a sign of immense trust, but Che wasn't buying it. He saw it as a form of brainwashing. As your assistant, that's my job, Che replied. Orochimaru said nothing more, nodded slightly, and resumed the experiment. This time, they completed the transformation of the upper body, a process that took 6 hours. Orochimaru didn't seem entirely satisfied with the progress, but it was getting late, so he had to stop. Even with full body bone modification and the body plasticizer, this is just the beginning of what I envision. True software modification should be limitless, not restricted by bones and flesh. Orochimaru's eyes were bloodshot from the intense experimentation. but he couldn't hide his excitement. Che watched him silently. After coming out of his reverie, Orochimaru explained some things to Che. For instance, Che was free to do other work, but if he couldn't be back on Sunday, he had to leave a note on the board outside the lab. Orochimaru would also post on the board whether he'd be at the lab on Sunday and if he needed Che. After all, Orochimaru wasn't free every week. As one of the Sannin of Konoha, he was even busier than Che. Afterward, Che left Orochimaru's research facility. Inside, Orochimaru's slit-like pupils stared at the dissected corpse like it was a masterpiece of beauty. Software transformation, this is just the beginning. Orochimaru's ambition was to learn all the world's arts, and software transformation was just one path to achieving that goal. Not long after Che left the research institute, he was stopped by a masked ANBU ninja. Uchiha Che, Chuunin. You've been summoned by the Hokage. Che was surprised. He hadn't seen the Hokage in years, not since coming to Konoha. This was the first time he'd been summoned. Che used his 6 eyes to confirm the person was indeed Konoha ANBU, and followed him to the Hokage building. In his office, Sarutobi Hiruzen puffed on his pipe, reviewing documents as he waited for Che's arrival. Che entered the office, led by the ANBU. Sarutobi Hiruzen put down his work, looked up at Che, and said, "I hear you've become Orochimaru's assistant." Reporting to Lord Hokage, that is correct. Lord Orochimaru personally requested me, so I couldn't refuse, Che replied respectfully. It seems Orochimaru has recognized your talent. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled, his face showing wrinkles from age. Orochimaru is my most prized student, a once-in-a-generation genius. You can learn a lot from following him. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued, in a way, you're similar to Orochimaru. You've shown remarkable talent at a young age. That's partly why I summoned you here today. Here we go, Che thought. Sarutobi Hiruzen always started by making small talk before getting to the point. Che hated that. It reminded him of certain officials in the Yuuzhan family from his past life, but given his current standing, Che couldn't complain, so he feigned respect and asked, "Do you have a mission for me, Hokage-sama?" Sarutobi Hiruzen danced around the question again. Recently, the other nations have been restless, especially Sunagakure village. Intelligence suggests Sunagakure has been active in the land of rivers, between the land of wind and the land of fire. But it wouldn't be good for Konoha to openly send people to investigate, as that could escalate tensions. So I plan to send a 4-man team of trusted Chuunin to the land of rivers. Under the guise of a B-rank mission to eliminate rogue ninja from Tanagakure, they will secretly investigate Sunagakure's movements in the area. Chapter 55 Chuunin Genin. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. You're in charge of this team, I've decided. Hiruzen Sarutobi was putting a lot of faith in Che, partly because of Che's strength. He'd assisted Shikaku on a similar investigation back when he was a genin, and he really showed what he could do during the Chuunin exams. He was as strong as any regular jonin, but it was also about trusting Che himself. This mission involved the relationship between 2 major ninja villages. One wrong move, and it could trigger a war. Giving it to Che was a risk. Luckily, Che's connections made Hiruzen feel confident. Kurenai Yuhi and Shikaku Nara were both loyal to Hiruzen, and Orochimaru was his most prized student. If they trusted Che, Hiruzen figured he could, too. Che bowed. I won't let you down, Lord Hokage. Hiruzen nodded, pleased. As for your team, you can pick them. But I'm going to suggest 2 people. Think about it. Which usually meant you didn't really have a choice. Turning down the Hokage's recommendations wasn't a good look. Hakumo Hayama is a young Chuunin. Good with wind release and teleportation. He's strong, definitely special jonin material. Kosuke Mariboshi made some mistakes when he was younger, so he never bothered getting promoted to jonin. But he's got the skills. Hayama can be your public second-in-command, but Mariboshi Kosuke is really the ace I've got for you. With the 3 of you, you'll be able to handle this mission. Pick the last one yourself. You'll leave first thing in the morning. If you pull this off, I'll mark it as an S-rank mission for you. Che's mind was already working. He knew who he wanted for that last spot. I promised to get it done, Che replied. Hiruzen chatted with Che for a bit, then gave him the files on the two guys before letting him go. Before it got dark, Che swung by Orochimaru's lab and left a message saying he was off on a mission. Then, using the addresses in the files, he found Hayama and Mariboshi. Hakumo Hayama was a good-looking young guy, not much older than Che. He got pumped right away when he heard about the S-rank mission. Mariboshi Kosuka was middle-aged, a little gray, nothing special to look at. But Che could tell right off the bat he definitely had Jonin skills, young genius with special Jonin strength, and a hidden Jonin, that definitely met the requirements for an S-rank. As for that last slot, Che wasn't budging. He was going to find a 10,000-year-old genin pretending to be weak, like Metkai's dad, Mat Dai. Che now knew Mat Dai had mastered the 8 gates, which explained the meridian problems he'd noticed before. Mat Dai had definitely opened the 8 gates at some point and hit Jonin level. If you underestimated Mat Dai just because he was always catching cats and dogs, you were in for a world of hurt. Metkai had taken Che to his house once. It was a wreck. You could see how poor they were right away. Che knocked on the beat-up wooden door. After a minute, Mat Dai opened the door, wearing an apron. "Ah, Che. Here to see Kai, right? He's not home today, but I just cooked some rice. Want to stay for dinner?" Mat Dai asked, friendly as could be, especially toward Che, probably because Che had complimented Mat Dai before. Che smiled and nodded. "Actually, I haven't eaten all day." Mat Dai's smile widened. "Perfect. I'll make a couple more dishes." Che stopped him. "Don't bother, just stick to what you were doing." "Uncle Dai, I'm not here to see Kai. I actually came to see you." Mat Dai looked surprised. "Me? What for?" Mat Dai really couldn't figure out why Che, one of Konoha's top geniuses, would want anything to do with a genin like him. "I've got a mission here." Che explained the whole thing. Mat Dai didn't believe it at first. "A mission this important? Why me?" Che replied, "I believe you're strong enough to handle it." Mat Dai was speechless, then suddenly burst into tears. Wasn't his whole life about getting a little recognition? "Che. I promise you, I'll do my best, even if it kills me. I'll give it everything I've got." Mat Dai wiped his eyes and said seriously. Che stood on his tiptoes and patted Dai's shoulder, like he was the grown-up. "Take it easy, Uncle Dai. This mission isn't that dangerous, unless something crazy happens." Dai calmed down and nodded, then led Che inside. The house might have looked bad on the outside, but it was clean and tidy inside. It showed that Mat and his son were positive and optimistic and hadn't given up just because they were poor. Che liked that a lot. Mat Dai proudly pointed out the food he'd made. "Kai's out on a mission today. So, we get to eat the bacon, chicken, and eggs I was saving for him." That the family might have been poor, but they never skimped on food. It might not have been gourmet, but they made sure it was nutritious. That was the only way to keep up with the needs of 2 taijutsu ninjas, especially with Metkai still growing. Even if Mat Dai went hungry, Kai wouldn't. Mat Dai was working in the kitchen with his apron on, and Che helped out. And soon they had a big pot of rice and a table full of dishes. They sat down and started eating. Che had been busy in Orochimaru's lab all day and hadn't had enough to eat. Then, he'd been called in by the Hokage and had spent time tracking down the 2 teammates. This was the first real meal he'd had since breakfast, so he was starving. Mat Dai was happy to see it, feeling good about his cooking. Mat Dai smiled and gave Che a piece of chicken. "Eat up. Here, have some meat." Che took the chicken and thanked him. Mat Dai sighed. "When this mission's over, that S-rank money will be enough to fix up the whole house. I can buy fresh pork and beef. Won't have to eat bacon all the time. Thank you so much, Che." Mat Dai was grateful, and he bowed deeply to Che. Che quickly put down his chopsticks and helped Mat Dai up. Mat Dai was an elder, and Che couldn't just sit there and accept that. Then, they cleaned up the table. After everything was put away, Che went home. Chapter 56 Departing from the Country of Sichuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, the 4 of them, Uchiha Che, Shirayan Hayama, Mariboshi Kosuka, and Mat Dai, met at Konoha's gate. Che glanced around, ready to go. Che. Captain, Bayun Hayama said, interrupting his thoughts. Is it just the four of us? He looked at them, especially Kosuke and Mat Dai. He only knew they were supposed to be perennial genin. Little did he realize that he was the weakest link. Bayun Hayama didn't want to be rude, but Kosuke and Mat Dai picked up on his vibe. Kosuke smiled, patting Hayama on the shoulder. Don't worry, I won't slow you down. Plus, I'm a great cook. I can whip up some grub for us on the mission. Kosuke was reminded of his younger days when looking at Shirayan Hayama's dark gray ponytail, so he felt inexplicably drawn to him. Mat Dai gave a thumbs up. Even though I'm just a genin, I'll give it my all. That's the spirit of youth, Che spoke up. Kosuke and you are elite genin hand-picked by the Hokage. And Mat Dai is an elite I personally invited. This team of four is solid. Bayun Hayama still had reservations about Kosuke and Mat Dai being on this S-rank mission. In the end, he trusted Che, Konoha's top ninja. Still, it added pressure. He felt like he'd be babysitting two genin. Seeing that Bayun Hayama was no longer objecting, Che led them off. They traveled hard, sleeping under the stars, resting and napping in the trees. They ate military rations and refilled their water from rivers along the way. Time was of the essence, especially with this mission. It was literally life or death. Sand Village's ninja deployments changed daily. The sooner they arrived, the better intel they'd have. In less than 2 days, on the second night, they reached the Land of Rivers. True to its name, the Land of Rivers was full of mountains and valleys. They trekked through it all until they reached Tanigakure, a ninja village within the Land of Rivers. Tanigakure village was tiny compared to Konoha. Konoha was supposed to be a village, but had grown into a sprawling city. Tanigakure was a village in the truest sense of the word. The entire population, including civilians, didn't exceed 5,000. The number of ninjas was under 200, mostly genin. Only the village head, Hiroshi Hasegawa, had the strength of a regular Konoha jonin. Hasegawa greeted Che and his team personally. I've heard so much about you, Konoha's top genius, Uchiha Che, right? A prodigy from a great family. Seeing you in person, it's all true. You really are something special. Hasegawa, Tanigakure's village head and nearly 40 years old, was all smiles, trying to butter up an 11-year-old Konoha Chuunin. That was the reality of small countries and villages. It was how they survived. Che returned the politeries, giving Hasegawa face. Village head Hasegawa, you're too kind. It's just rumors spread by the villagers. Could we get more details on the mission? Hasegawa turned serious. Those two traitorous ninjas are both elite Chuunin. They were pretty capable in our village. They coveted my position and started a rebellion together, but I put it down. They fled after the rebellion was crushed. The Land of Rivers is full of mountains and who knows where they're hiding. I sent out ninja teams to find them, but they failed. And it's not convenient for me to leave the village. So, we're relying on your village to help. Che nodded. This might take a while. I might have to stay in Tanigakure village for a bit. Don't worry, we've got accommodations ready. You can move in now. Hasegawa smiled, gesturing to a maid to take them to their place. Che stood up and asked casually, Village head Hasegawa, have there been any changes in Sand Village lately? Hasegawa's smile faltered. He replied with a strained grin, Tanigakure village will remain neutral between Sand and Konoha. I hope your village understands. Che nodded and left as if nothing happened. Hasegawa took a deep breath. He knew all about Sand Village's recent moves. He was just playing dumb. Tanigakure was too weak to offend either Sand or Konoha. Sand Village wasn't the strongest of the 5 great ninja villages, but it could easily crush Tanigakure. The maid led Che to their residence, a single-family villa with a backyard. The maid handed Che the key and the mission information, then left. Che turned around. It's getting late. We'll head out tomorrow. Let's stay here tonight. Bayun Hayama and Mat Dai nodded. Kosuke smiled. Then you can try my cooking tonight. I'll go get the ingredients. Che said eagerly, we're looking forward to it. Kosuke left to buy groceries. Che found a detailed map of the land of rivers, spread it out on the ground, and said, "Let's use this time to discuss our plan. I plan to start from here in Valley Hidden Village and head west. The destination is Akaishi Mountain, the closest peak to the Land of Wind. If Sand Village is planning anything, it'll start there. We'll search west, pretending to look for those rogue ninjas. That way, even if we run into Sand Ninja, we can slip away without trouble." Bayun Hayama looked at Che with admiration. He had great faith in this young ninja. Matt Dai unconditionally agreed. After all, Che had brought him on this mission. After a while, Kosuke returned carrying 2 big bags and a large iron pot on his back. "Tonight's dinner is sukiyaki." "Sukiyaki? Like a stew?" Che asked, confused. "Hot pot. People ate that a long time ago." Kosuke laughed, thinking Che was kidding. Che had never eaten sukiyaki before. Kosuke set up the iron pot in the kitchen. He sliced the beef thin and grilled it lightly, then added a seasoning of soy sauce and sugar and cooked it with vegetables, mushrooms, tofu, and other ingredients. When the water was almost gone, Kosuke added sweet cooking wine to the pot to give it flavor. Kosuke brought the sukiyaki to the table and cracked a fresh egg into everyone's bowl as dipping sauce. The aroma filled the air, and they couldn't resist grabbing their bowls and chopsticks to dig in. The hot beef dipped in egg was cool enough to eat right away. The smooth, sweet taste was like nothing they'd ever had. Che, Bayun Hayama, and Matt Dai all gave their approval, making Kosuke beam with satisfaction. Chapter 57 Sand Ninja Information. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Early the next morning, the sun streamed into Che's place. Che and the others were already geared up, Mariboshi Kosuke lugging the iron pot on his back, prepared for a few more nights under the stars. Che adjusted his forehead protector and led the group out. They headed west, across the mountains. The further west they went, the sparser the vegetation became, the dense forests giving way to scrub brush. Along the way, they casually asked about the rogue ninja from Valley Hidden Village and stopped in villages to ask for directions. Finally, they got a hit. A woodcutter said he'd seen 2 people matching the description heading west, that lined up perfectly with their route, so Che picked up the pace. This raised a possibility. Maybe Valley Hidden Village knew where the rogue ninja were, but didn't want to risk upsetting Sunagakure Village by searching that way. Either way, it worked for Che. Even if those 2 were on Sunagakure's turf, he'd have a reason to take them out and gather intel on Sunagakure in the open. As dusk approached, Che signaled the others to stop. "Let's camp here tonight and move on tomorrow. Otherwise, going straight into Sunagakure territory right after getting the mission would be way too obvious." Bayun Yeshan agreed, so they started scouting for a campsite. Gu Jia unloaded the iron pot. "I'll take care of dinner again. I picked up some supplies in the village today." Matt Dai offered to help Gu Jia build a simple stone stove. Che stroked his chin. "No meat, huh? Can't have that. I'll handle the meat tonight." He turned and headed into the mountains. Darkness was falling. Bayun Yeshan found a cave that offered shelter. Matt Dai set up the stone stove and a grill outside. Gu Jia used his knife to carve out 4 sets of wooden bowls and chopsticks, and already had water boiling in the pot, with the prepped ingredients simmering away. The other 3 were looking at the entrance of the cave. "Captain Che, you." Bayun Yeshan was stunned as Che emerged carrying a massive animal on his back. It was a wild boar, dark-furred, fat, strong, and sporting a long snout. It looked like it weighed 200 or 300 pounds. A kunai was buried deep in one of its eyes, clearly the killing blow. Che, fresh from the hunt, was in high spirits. He dropped the boar on the ground. "Tonight, we feast." Gu Jia pulled out his knife and went to work. As he processed the boar, he complimented Che, "That's some serious hunting skill. Not a scratch on the skin. You could sell this hide for a good price." Che replied matter-of-factly, "Guess I still got it." Gu Jia expertly bled, gutted, divided, and sliced the meat. He quickly added some to the pot with the simmering vegetables. The rest he skewered and grilled, setting aside the 4 pork legs to marinate before roasting them later. Soon, the aroma of food filled the air. Che spoke up. "Yes Han, we've got some uninvited guests at 6 o'clock. Go take care of them." Baiyun Yeshan immediately drew the long sword from his back, his signature weapon, the Changfeng sword. He rose and carefully scanned the area. He spotted something, confirming Che's keen senses. Hidden in the bushes a few dozen yards behind Che, several men were peeking at them. "Man, that smells amazing. Let's rob them, I'm starving," the guy in charge said sternly. "Normal folks don't stay out in the mountains at night. Careful, might be ninja." "Hey, look." That guy stood up. "Let's get out of here." The leader didn't get to finish his sentence. Leaves rustled as a voice cut through the air. "Since you're here, you're not leaving." Baiyun Yeshan was suddenly standing right next to them. The men panicked and swung their weapons at him. Baiyun Yeshan's eyes flashed. He dodged and struck with a few quick slashes, instantly opening bloody wounds on their hands, severing tendons. Then, he dragged the men over to Che. Che said casually, "Keep two alive." He sensed that these were dangerous people, and felt no guilt in killing them. Out here, they could only blame themselves. The men wailed and begged for mercy, but Baiyun Yeshan dispatched them, leaving only two conscious. Maraboshi Kosuke went on cooking as if nothing had happened, but Mat Dai looked a little uneasy. Though he kept quiet, it highlighted the differences between them. Che and Shirayan Hayama were young elites, while Kosuke Maraboshi was an old-school ninja who had worked with the Hokage. Mat Dai had mostly been involved in low-level genin tasks, so this kind of situation was new to him. The two survivors were terrified. Che casually asked questions until he had the whole story. They were bandits from around here, preying on villages to support their camp, but a few days ago, a group of ninja from Sunagakure village showed up and took over their hideout. The bandits resisted, but were slaughtered, leaving only a handful alive. They'd smelled the cooking and crept closer, only to be intercepted by Baiyun Yeshan. Their stories lined up. Confirming the basic facts, Che asked about the location of the bandits' stronghold, and the number and characteristics of the ninja. Then, he signaled Baiyun Yeshan to finish the job. Baiyun Yeshan dug a pit and buried the corpses. By the time he was done, Maraboshi Kosuke's feast was almost ready, the pork legs sizzling on the grill. The four of them sat down to eat. Kosuke Maraboshi always managed to create delicious dishes with simple ingredients, which was an art in itself. As Che enjoyed the pork and vegetable soup and the grilled meat, Kosuke Maraboshi said, "According to those bandits, the two rogue ninja from Valley Hidden Village probably defected to Sunagakure. How should we proceed with our mission?" Che smiled. "Isn't that what we wanted all along?" Chapter 58 Sand Ninja Stronghold. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. After everyone had their fill of food and drink, they crashed in the cave for the night. The next morning, I heated up the leftover broth. "Nothing beats waking up to a tasty broth," Che joked. "Good thing I brought you along on this mission, Gujia." Baiyun Yeshan and Mat Dai agreed. They were used to relying on military rations when they went on missions from the village. Maruhoshi Kosuke just grinned at the compliment. After packing up, Gujia carried the pot and followed Che west, following the route the bandits had given them the night before. It only took a few hours to reach the mountain where the village was located. "The hideout's on that gentle slope, halfway up," Che said, spotting it in the distance. Baiyun Yeshan asked, "Will they think we're hostile if we just walk right in?" Che waved his hand. "Let's just pretend we don't know there are sand ninja in there." Baiyun Yeshan looked worried but nodded. Maraboshi Kosuke clapped Baiyun Yeshan on the shoulder. "We'll protect you if anything goes down." Baiyun Yeshan felt a little better, then remembered he was the vice captain. He gripped the hilt of his Changfeng sword. "I should be protecting you." Mat Dai chimed in, dead serious. "I'll protect you with all my youthful energy." Che grinned. "I think the sand ninjas are the ones who should be worried." Everyone chuckled, the tension easing. Che continued, "Okay, team, we're launching a full-on assault. Play it like a bandit extermination mission to gauge the number and strength of the sand ninja. But be careful. Don't get in over our heads." "Yes, Captain," Baiyun Yeshan said, drawing his Changfeng sword. "Got it," Gujia and Mat Dai echoed. "Let's move out." With that, they took off toward the mountain. Meanwhile, inside the hideout, sand ninja dressed as bandits were reinforcing the defenses, aiming to turn it into a base for the upcoming war. The bandit disguise was to avoid detection. They were in the western part of the land of rivers, close to the land of wind. The ninja war hadn't reached Sunagakure village yet, so the Suna ninjas were taking it easy. The sand ninjas slowly built their stronghold. A Sunagakure special jounin, wearing a white cloth headband, yelled while helping to push a cart of stones, "Hurry up. You want to get yelled at by her." That the sand ninjas instantly picked up the pace. This special jounin seemed to be the commander here, and her was likely a higher-up, boom, starred at a huge explosion stopped the sand ninjas in their tracks. The gate had been blown apart by a fireball. The burning wooden door flew backwards for more than 10 meters, slamming into the ground and sending splinters and fire everywhere. Black smoke billowed into the sky. Enemy attack. The special jounin shouted, reacting instantly, even though he didn't know who the enemy was. Outside the village, Che, having just finished the seal and unleashed the fireball, was already forming another seal, ready for another ninjutsu. Next to him, Kosuke Maruhoshi threw 4 exploding tags and stuck them to the wall, blasting holes in it. Baiyun Yeshan, holding his Changfeng sword, leaped into the air, swinging the blade. A sharp gust of wind sliced through the already weakened wall. A large section crumbled, kicking up dust. Compared to ninjutsu users like Che, Mat Dai wasn't as good at destroying buildings, but that didn't mean Mat Dai was weak. Mat Dai opened the 5 gates, and the blood flow in the body increased rapidly, causing Mat Dai's skin to turn red, and green steam rising from his body. By now, many disguised sand ninjas had gathered outside the hideout. Mat Dai charged into the crowd, planted his hands on the ground, and spun, kicking everyone around him. Youth! Spin! That the sand ninjas scattered as Mat Dai kicked them every which way. Che finished his seal, spitting flames into the air while throwing a barrage of shurikens to combine with the flames. Fire style, Phoenix Sage fire technique. A storm of flaming shurikens rained down, trapping the sand ninjas in a fiery hell. The Sunagakure special jounin was caught completely off guard. For a moment, all he could do was dodge the flaming projectiles. Che scanned the area, confirming that the entire stronghold was swarming with sand ninja, close to 50. Most were mid-level genin, with the exception of the special jounin in the white headband, who was on par with Shiraun Hayama. Even with so many enemies, Che didn't panic, unleashing more fire attacks. Fire style, Great Fire Annihilation. That the overwhelming sea of fire slammed into the Suna ninja, causing heavy casualties. Many were burned alive, writhing and screaming on the ground. "You're Konoha ninja. Why are you attacking us?" The special jounin held a kunai in front of Che. Che replied, "It's our job to get rid of bandits." The special jounin facepalmed. His expression twisted as he took Che at his word, thinking this was just a big misunderstanding. "Wait. It's a misunderstanding. I'm Mark, special jounin from Sunagakure village, and this is my forehead protector." Mark pulled out his forehead protector, showing it to Che. Che pretended to be skeptical. "Sand ninja? Then why are you dressed as bandits?" That's confidential," Mark stammered. "Anyway, it's all a misunderstanding. Let's just call it even." Che nodded, telling Baiyun Yeshan and the others to stand down. Then, he revealed his identity to Mark. Konoha Chuunin Uchiha Che, leading a team on a bandit extermination mission. The ponytail is my deputy, Konoha Chuunin Baiyun Hazan. The one carrying the pot is Konoha Genin Maruhoshiko. And the guy in the green jumpsuit is Konoha Genin Mat Dai. Chuunin, Genin. Mark looked like he'd seen a ghost, shocked by the ranks of Che and his team. Che's ninjutsu had been jounin level, and these 4, none of whom were even special jounin, had just wiped the floor with the sand ninja in the stronghold. Mark was both shocked and humiliated. "Since it's a misunderstanding, we'll let it slide," Che said. "By the way, we're also looking for 2 missing ninja from Guin village. Have you seen them? Here's a photo." Che handed the rebel ninja photo to Mark. Mark glanced at it and returned it. "Never seen them before." Che looked at Mark, nodded, and said, "All right, see you around." With that, Che led his team out of the stronghold. Chapter 59 Sand Hidden Flame Escaper. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Che and the others left, Mark was immediately on edge. He sent people to count and care for the injured, while others sped off to headquarters to report and ask for backup. 2 hours later, reinforcements finally arrived. What's the total number of injured? A woman strode forward, her voice sharp and steady, radiating strength. Mark hurried to meet her. 37 injured in total. 25 with minor injuries, 12 seriously. 2 of the seriously injured have died. The woman immediately turned to the sand ninja behind her. Get the medical ninja to start triage right now, and prioritize the seriously injured. I don't want to lose anyone else. Yes, Master Yitsang. Pakura, a female medical ninja, responded respectfully. Mark was sweating bullets. He was face to face with Yitsang, his boss, and the infamous Scorch-style master from the Sand Village. Yitsang's reputation rivaled only that of the elder Chio and the acting Kazekage, Raza. Her power was terrifying. She could turn people into mummies with a touch. Yitsang frowned. A bunch of rejects. Getting your butts kicked by a few Konoha, Chuunin and Genin. How am I supposed to explain this back at the village? Mark quickly defended himself. Lord Yitsang, these Konoha ninja are something else. One is a master of wind-style swordsmanship, another is deadly with ninja tools and swords, and then there's a taijutsu user with freakish strength. They were all my equals. Their captain, Uchiha Che, is even worse. He's throwing around Jonin-level fire-style jutsu like it's nothing. I couldn't touch him. Only you, Lord Yakura, could stand a chance. Yitsang, still suspicious, saw it as a weak excuse. Uchiha Che. I've never heard that name before. Is he some kind of new Uchiha prodigy? Mark hesitated. He's around 11 or 12. What? Yitsang was floored. She knew Mark wasn't weak. He was a skilled jonin with deadly wind-style techniques. For him to say that a preteen Uchiha kid was better. Her first thought was that Mark was passing the buck, but the scorch marks across the compound and the burn victims spoke for themselves. Konoha. Uchiha, they really breed them tough. Yitsang sighed. Lord Yitsang, something's happened at headquarters. A ninja burst into the compound, shouting Yitsang's name as he ran. Yitsang's eyes widened. What? An hour earlier, in the land of rivers, a Kaishi mountain, a stone fortress stood guard on the red, rocky landscape. Inside and out, hundreds of sand ninja were building defenses. Hidden on a nearby ridge, 4 figures kept watch. Captain Che, you really spotted those 2 rogue ninja inside? Bai Yun Yeshan was skeptical. It was a long distance to spot someone. So what's the plan? Negotiate, or go in guns blazing? Maruhoshi Kosuka, a seasoned veteran, laid out the options. Matt Dai said nothing, only waited for Che's lead. Che paused to consider. Our main objective is to gather intel on the Sand Village. Negotiation won't give us access to the information we need, whether they agree or not. A full-on assault could trigger a war, and we'd be responsible. Here's what we'll do. I'll send a shadow clone with you to stage an attack on the fortress, kill the rogue ninja while we're at it. That gives us a reason to fall back, and the sand ninja will think we got what we wanted, so they won't come after us. My real body will use the chaos to sneak in and get the intel. Once you've pulled back, don't worry about me. Take the bodies of the rogue ninja back to Tanigakure village. Kosuka worried about Che's safety. Captain Che, you're a Konoha prodigy, and I'm just an old genin. Let me take this risk. Baiyun Yeshan and Matt Dai voiced similar concerns. Che waved them off. Trust me. I'll be fine. If I'm not back, have Guin village send a force to mediate. The Sand Village isn't ready for war. They won't kill me and spark a conflict prematurely. The contingency plan reassured them somewhat. Che then created a shadow clone, which led them down the mountain while his real body stayed behind, waiting for the signal. Our primary targets during the attack are the 2 rogue ninja from Tanigakure village, Hayakawa Okora and Moritani Shinya. Che's shadow clone shared their photos, making sure everyone knew who to look for. Once you're inside, go straight for them. Draw the sand ninja away from the fortress to give my main body an opening. Yes, Captain Che. Baiyun Yeshan was the first to respond, fully respecting their young captain. Be careful. If things get too hot, pull out. It's not worth your lives. Che's shadow clone added, though the shadow clone and main body were separate, they shared the same thoughts. Kosuke looked at Che, impressed. If I had been like this when I was young, maybe it wouldn't have happened. When Kosuke Maraboshi was young, he killed 2 of his teammates because of his eagerness for success. Therefore, he kowtowed in front of the second Hokage and repented, vowing to only be a genin in his life. In fact, Maraboshi Kosuke's water escape was obtained by the second Hokage's 3-point true inheritance. In a mission, in order to protect the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen's left eye was injured, he received the third Hokage's Shuriken Shadow Clone technique as a reward. Kosuke's strength is not inferior to that of Konoha's Jounin. Matt Dai agreed with Che's caution. He was willing to die for Konoha, but he didn't take his life lightly, that's why he treated the 8 gates as a last resort. Dai, how are you holding up? Che asked. The side effects of using the 8 gates were clearly taking a toll on Matt Dai. Che could see it with his Sharingan. Matt Dai was touched. Thanks for asking. I'm fine. I just need some rest when we get back. Che nodded. The 4 rushed toward the fortress. This time, the guards were ready for them, and they had been spotted. Who's there? The guard shouted. Che and the others ignored him, heading straight for the fortress walls. Chapter 60 Secret Infiltration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Sand Village ninjas inside the fortress reacted instantly, but Che immediately started tossing smoke bombs and explosive tag kunai, along with other ninja tools, completely disrupting their movements. While they were scrambling, Che's shadow clone whisked Gu Jia and the other 2 straight to the fortress's center. According to the intel, his main body gathered with the 6 eyes, Hayakawa Osora and Moritani Shinya were holed up nearby. Intruder! We've got intruders, that the Sand Village ninjas yelled, struggling to mount any kind of real defense. They could only fire off random wind-style jutsu, but Che blasted them back with a massive fire-style attack. Fire-style trumps wind-style, plus Che's fire-style was way beyond anything these Sand Village wind users could muster. Kosuke flung ninja tools left and right, Baiyun Yeshan unleashed a flurry of wind blades, and Matt Dai spun his nunchucks, deflecting incoming shurikens and kunai. Meanwhile, inside the fortress, Hayakawa Osora and Moritani Shinya, who were busy briefing a Sand Village clerk on the latest intel about the Land of Rivers and Hidden Valley Village, heard the commotion. They had been using their inside knowledge of the Land of Rivers and Hidden Valley Village to buy protection from Sand Village. Now, this ruckus made them suspect the worst. Could they be after us? That they rushed outside to see what was happening. Konoha, that they stared in disbelief at Che and the others, their Konoha headbands glinting in the sun. So, that bastard Hiroshi Hasegawa flipped to Konoha. Hayakawa Osora snarled. Moritani Shinya scoffed. 2 kids, an old guy, and some dude with a bowl cut. Konoha thinks that's enough to take us out. How clueless can they be? But the situation wasn't exactly looking good. Those 2 kids, the old guy, and the bowl cut had torn through the Sand Village defense and were heading straight for them. Hayakawa Osora raised a hand. Something's not right. Why are they getting closer? Moritani Shinya's eyes widened. Crap! Clang. Clang. They pulled out kunai, barely managing to block the explosive tag kunai Kosuke was throwing. 1 kunai stuck in the ground and exploded nearby, forcing them to dive for cover. In the blink of an eye, Che and his team were practically right in front of them. Hayakawa Osora and Moritani Shinya weren't exactly pushovers. They snapped into action, ready to buy themselves some time, but Che wasn't about to give them any breathing room. Mystic Shackles Technique. What? Sharingan. Hayakawa Osora and Moritani Shinya felt a cold dread creep over them. They'd been caught in a Sharingan Genjutsu, a legendary illusion, and they were frozen in place, as if real shackles were binding them. Ugh. Che moved like lightning, burying a kunai in Hayakawa Osora's heart and casually slicing Moritani Shinya's throat. Baiyun Hayama and Maruhoshi Kosuka immediately secured the bodies. Matt Dai took point. Watching their backs, they turned to retreat, but Sand Village ninjas blocked their path. Konoha ninjas. What's the meaning of this? A Sand Village Jonin demanded. Che pulled out their mission authorization. We're here to eliminate rogue ninjas from Hidden Valley Village, as per our assignment. Humph, how dare Konoha invade our Sand Village territory to take out rogue ninjas? The Jonin sneered, not backing down. I haven't even gotten around to accusing you of harboring traitors yet, Che said, calm as could be. The Sand Village Jonin's face darkened. He knew he was on shaky ground. Che led Gu Jie and the other three toward the Sand Village ninjas. Step aside. The Jonin hesitated, then ordered his men to clear a path for Che and his team. Che led Gu Jie and the three out of the fortress and into the desert, breaking into a run. A short distance away, Che's shadow clone vanished, and Gu Jie and the others continued to carry the bodies of the rogue ninjas toward Hidden Valley Village. Back at the fortress, the Jonin, looking grim, ordered a ninja to report the incident to Yetsong. Yetsong was the overall commander of the Sand Village operation, and news like this had to go straight to the top. Meanwhile, a Sand Village ninja lurked in the shadows of the fortress, secretly observing everything. It was Che, his true form, who had used the chaos to slip into the fortress and disguise himself using the transformation technique. The Jonin finished giving his orders and prepared to head back to the fortress, already dreading Yetsong's reaction. As he walked, a shadow crept unnoticed beneath his feet. It was Che's shadow spell. The shadow merged with the Jonin's, paralyzing him instantly. His eyes widened, and he tried to scream, but his own hand clamped over his throat. His feet shuffled slowly, his hands gripping his throat, making strangled noises. But the Sand Village ninjas, still reeling from the earlier attack, didn't notice the subtle sounds. The Jonin, in this bizarre posture, stumbled toward a shadowy corner, and the shadow began to creep upward. It stopped at the Jonin's neck. The shadow solidified into a giant hand and squeezed the Jonin's neck. With a sickening crack, it snapped his vertebrae. Shadow spell. Head hanging was derived from the Nara clan's shadow neck bind technique. Since the magic power replaced In-style chakra, it was harder to detect than the original shadow neck bind technique. Che was, after all, the only one in the world with magic power. Che rifled through the Jonin's pockets, finding his identification. Feng Chen, Sand Village Special Jonin, currently Hyura's second-in-command, responsible for building and garrisoning the Sand Village fortress in the Land of Rivers. Che studied Feng Chen's appearance, then used the transformation technique to become a perfect copy. He stashed Feng Chen's body in a corner and buried it using Earth-style jutsu, ensuring it wouldn't be discovered any time soon. Then, in his new guise, Che strolled openly into the fortress's central building. Using the broad vision of his 6 eyes, he pinpointed the location of the information he needed. Numerous Sand Village ninjas greeted Che along the way, and he could only offer a quick nod. Desperate to avoid suspicion, Che quickly found Feng Chen's office. He pushed the door open, immediately locked it, and began tearing through the boxes and cabinets. He unearthed piles of documents, eventually uncovering key intel that revealed the Sand Village's true intentions. It turned out that the third Kazekage of Sand Village had disappeared, but the news had been suppressed and kept secret. Sand Village had decided to use this incident as a pretext to launch a war against Konoha. With a large number of troops to mobilize for war, Sand Village had decided to build a fortress in the Land of Rivers, strategically located between the Land of Wind and the Land of Fire, to prepare to station troops in advance. Che pocketed the documents and headed toward Yetsong's office, where the fortress's personnel list was likely kept. His 6 eyes revealed that Yetsong's door was locked, so he used the shadow spell to slip through the crack and unlock the door from the inside. But an alarm blared, and Che realized that Yetsong had been prepared. If the door wasn't opened with the key, the hidden alarm would go off. Che rushed into the room, smashed open a cabinet, frantically searched, and finally found the personnel list he needed. Che snatched the list, stuffed it into his pocket, and heard footsteps approaching in the corridor. He leaped to his feet and smashed through the window. A large group of Sand Village ninjas soon arrived at Yetsong's office. Seeing Che climbing out the window, a ninja asked, "Master Feng Chen, what happened?" Che feigned outrage. "It must have been those Konoha ninjas. They stole the information and jumped out the window. Go after them. Che hurried off in the opposite direction. The Sand Village ninjas rushed to the window to look, but didn't spot any Konoha ninjas on the road. The other ninjas were still cleaning up the mess from the initial attack. Realizing something was wrong, a Sand Village ninja yelled, "That wasn't Master Feng Chen. After him."